level of fraud with the non-emergency medical transportation as a hub, and then child care is a fraud, autism is a fraud, a spoke of fraud on the wheel. And I realized this thing was so gigantic, it was like trying to wrestle a greased hippo. And I knew it wouldn't work if I tried to tackle the whole thing. So I had to pick a pressure point, and that pressure point was childcare, because I knew people were going to be pissed when they saw what was going on with it.
Good morning, everybody. Kicking off with Nick Shirley this morning. Fraud is bad, everybody. You know it's bad. Nick Shirley for the win. Let's continue. Happy Friday, everybody. I usually be at work from this time, but I'm off. So let's continue.
With childcare, and then we moved into the non-emergency medical transportation, and you can see the results now.
Today is a big day. We're here in Minnesota, back with the legend David. Today's a big day because today here in Minnesota, over 10 people are being charged for fraud that they have committed here inside the state of Minnesota. And a few of these people are being charged with autism and daycare, childcare fraud. Over $40 million in autism fraud. And one of the main ladies in the video that me and David made, she has been caught with over $4 million. Her last year her daycare received $3.67 million. And now she has been criminally charged for child care fraud here inside the state of Minnesota. And this is some of the highest amount of fraud that's ever been charged inside of this district. This is Ilhan Omar's district here in Minnesota. And on top of that, they're bringing about 2 new cases of fraud that have actually never been criminally charged inside of the Medicare programs here inside of Minnesota. This is a big deal. David, you're here with us. What does this say?
This is phenomenal to see the progression that things are happening after the release of our videos. And that woman who was criminally charged, by the way, she was caught at the airport with a one-way ticket to London. She was getting out of Dodge, and they stopped her. And now she's been charged not only with defeating our future fraud, but she's the first person charged with child care fraud. It's a big deal.
This is a big deal, and they're going to be doing this press conference right now. We're going to be breaking it all down. We're going to be interviewing people like Dr. Oz and also A.G. Collins, who's actually the head of the Fraud Task Force. He's the Attorney General of the Fraud Task Force, so we're going to be interviewing him as well. And right now, because of the celebration that's taking place, the lawyers are leering the hard way. We're doing 25% off the entire site. So you can go to antifraudclub.com and use code LEERING, and you're going to get 25% off. And now let's see what we have to say. Look at all the press. Look at them. Look at all these schools that never actually reported on the fraud that was taking place. So here they are. And look, we even have our op. CNN right there. She investigated me versus investigating the fraudsters. In fact, her investigation on the fraud was to call the fraudsters and say, hey, are you guys committing fraud? And obviously they said no, but we know that it was different because we did the real work.
We're from CNN. Can we talk to you? This is MAGA YouTuber Nick Shirley. Back at a daycare in Minnesota, he alleged was a fraudulent facility in a now viral video. How do you know that all the allegations that you're making are true?
How do I know that they're true? Well, we showed you guys what was happening, and then you guys can go ahead and make your own analysis.
We're coming so we can make our own analysis. Are you 100% sure you're true?
Yeah, I am 100% sure I'm true.
CNN is looking into Shirley's claims. Hi, my name's Whitney Wild. I'm a correspondent for CNN. We reached out to several of the daycares featured in the now viral video. Only one daycare facility answered and said they are a legitimate business.
And now it's spread throughout the entire country, not just the U.S. We've heard from people from New Zealand, Australia, Sweden, Japan, everywhere. They're finding the same sorts of fraud.
These 2 people right here, we did the dirty work that all these people are supposed to do, but they didn't.
We did it.
Now let's see what they have to say.
Today, we are announcing criminal charges against 15 defendants in Minnesota for fraud schemes that targeted over $90 million in taxpayer dollars. Our cases today involve 7 different state-managed Medicaid programs that have been systematically pilfered by fraudsters who treated Minnesota-run programs as their personal piggy bank. One defendant is charged with defrauding the Integrated Community Supports Medicaid program. One patient was supposed to be receiving 24-hour care through this program, but he was actually being serviced by a fraudster and received no services. This patient was later found dead. Meanwhile, the architect of this fraud scheme was billing Medicaid as if he was providing care to
Happy Friday, everybody. Happy Friday.
The defendant even submitted a claim of over $400 for services he never provided the day before this man died.
Today's arrests represent the largest autism fraud bust in American history.
So they just went in and they announced all the fraud cases. For instance, this is the biggest autism fraud that's ever been exposed in Minnesota, and I think potentially in the country, if I heard correctly. So right here, Robert Kennedy showing this graph. 2020, it was all normal and under the Biden administration. Numbers just went like exponentially without a need. All fraud. All right, David. So they just had the largest autism fraud bust in American history. Future Learning Center, where they received $3.67 million. She's now been charged. What's your overall thoughts on what you just heard?
Morning, Matt. Good morning.
So, this is the beginning. And like I've always contended, when the dust settles on this fraud in Minnesota is going to be $80 billion going back to about 1988. And the speed with which these investigations are occurring is unprecedented. I'm shocked at how quickly they're making these arrests, and they're going to find the money, and the fraudsters are running scared.
There was literally a fraudster who they went to go arrest this morning who jumped out of a 4-story building to escape.
Yeah, it looked like he broke his ankle or his leg because he was hobbling. So, and that's exactly what he deserves.
Muhammad Omar. Last name was Omar. What a coincidence.
Yes. What a coincidence.
So, Dr. Oz, we just had the press conference. The largest autism fraud in America history took place here inside of Minnesota. And there's a bunch of other fraud as well. One of the Lears as well was charged as well. What does this say about how the fraud was able to happen, and then what you guys are doing now to make sure that it does not continue to happen?
When you have fraud of this magnitude, you can't play man-to-man. You need zone defense, which means an all-of-government approach. So when President Trump said, we're creating a White House anti-fraud task force, and he puts the vice president in charge of it, everybody listens. So if I get called and I've got a little data that shows that there's something fishy going on with autism billing because it's gone from a few million to $400 million, which literally happened, I noticed that, but I got to do something with it. So I can call, for example, Department of Justice or the FBI or the Office of Inspector General, and I can get folks, boots on the ground to go start.
That's why I'm off.
Like you did, by the way. You're basically deputized because you're identifying
5 days off.
That this was legitimate fraud happening, not just some embarrassing numbers. And then you have Treasury involved because they can do forensic accounting and say, you know what, these lowlifes who are stealing money, they're bad. But what about the folks above them?
So I work the weekend, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday.
That hide the funds.
So I'm going to have Monday off too again.
Fund terrorist organizations. Who knows? You don't actually know the answer to these questions because you don't know where the money's going. But people who are sophisticated enough to defraud this government are often not from America. They're often foreign criminal organizations or even foreign governments. And that's why beginning to identify how the fraud happens is so important to us, because these guys, they've corrupted the system. They know how to take money out of the U.S. healthcare programs out there. We cannot, as Americans who love these programs and our fellow Americans, let them be hurt by this.
How essential are these programs actually? Because, I mean, think about how much money was gone to fraudsters. How did it go on for so long where people were able to steal, or where the budgets were able to go up by 1,000% when the enrollments didn't even go up? I know these are very important.
Yeah, blessings. Yes, blessings.
How was that happening where there was these huge increases in the budgets and where these fraudsters were literally just looting?
Nick, in our culture, when I look you in the eyes and I tell you I'm going to do something, you expect me to do it, and I hold you accountable as well. That's just who we are. During COVID,
the wife and I, we're going to make a brisket for Memorial
We're not
Day.
going to keep track for a while because there's a national emergency, but that taught people they could
put it in the smoker.
And then we began to get politically correct about the things we're saying, which is specifically what happened here in Minnesota, which I heard from Faye, a whistleblower Democrat serving in the Department of Health here, who said I was pointing out that there were problems happening, and not only were they not listening to me, they were scared. They didn't want to be accused as being racist. And then when people realized they couldn't speak about the truth, well, then everything gets hit.
This is what happens when they target communities for their own benefit. This is what happens when they scapegoat. And this is what happens when they no longer hide the idea of white supremacy.
And so we witnessed a confluence of catastrophes that has allowed overall Medicaid spending in the whole country to go up by 50% in the last 5-6 years. And we're seeing a 4-fold increase in things like pharmaceutical spending. Again, those are programs that defraud morality. this is a couple levels because I think this will actually at some point it's almost entertaining that you get this bad. What the all hospices in the entire country are in Los Angeles. Again, how many people are dying in LA? This is where you go to pass away. We've defrauded that program. In New York State, number one job in the entire state is not being a personal care service worker, which is, again, the core of your question. These are jobs your family would do for you normally, like carrying the groceries upstairs or driving you to a doctor's office or giving you a place to stay if you're down and out. Now we're just paying people to do that, so it's a jobs program. And so you begin to, as an American, question who was being attracted. Let me just answer that question for you real quick. My agency, who was in charge of at least doing the early warning, just looking at the numbers, was basically told, don't go after these bad guys. You got more important things to do.
I love barbecuing.
For these programs.
I barbecue all year round. Be snow on the ground. I'm a barbecue. I don't care.
And so the total number of people involved in Medicaid fraud.
Yeah, I'm doing it for 12 hours. Yeah.
6 people. Just think of that.
Depending on the size.
The entire almost $1 trillion program, allocating money to all of these programs, some of which are suspect, as you point out, there are 6 people in charge of it. That's not an accident. That's, effectively, it's either malevolent, malevolently ignoring reality, or you just didn't care.
And for instance, a lot of this fraud, like you said there, a lot of it's being done by people who aren't even from the United States. The Chinese mafia in New York City, the Russians in California, the Armenians as well. Here you had the Somalians in Minnesota. And we have David here with us. And David, how did you see this fraud? Because if it wasn't for you, a lot of this stuff would not be happening. If it wasn't for you noticing that there's no children at the daycare, how did you notice the involvement of, for instance, the Somali population come in and loot and steal from Americans?
So I started to see this prevalence of these child care facilities.
Texas, around definitely.
My office, and they're always in these dark, dingy buildings. And I said, well,
I got a chance to visit to Austin, Texas. Stayed about 3 days, 3 days and 2 nights.
So that's what started me looking into what's going on here, how many kids are going there. And so I go early in the morning, no kids. I go in the afternoon, no kids, no footprints in the snow. So when I started looking at,
I'm definitely from Chicago. In Chicago, we known for burn-ins and barbecue. So I got a chance to get a lot of barbecue, definitely in Chicago. I'm in Rockford now, but in Chicago, we definitely be barbecuing.
The ownership of the child care facilities, I said, they're all Somali. And so then I said, well, I'm seeing all these vans driving around, and it's a Somali driver, and there's never any passengers. So
burn-ins,
I started
definitely
looking at that. And then I realized it was autism. And that's why I depicted it as a wheel of fraud with the non-emergency medical transportation as a hub, and then child care is a fraud, autism is a fraud, a spoke of fraud on the wheel. And I realized this thing was so gigantic, it was like trying to wrestle a greased hippo. And I knew it would work if I tried to tackle the whole thing. So I had to pick a pressure point, and that pressure point was child care, because I knew people were going to be pissed when they saw what was going on with child care. And then we moved into the non-emergency medical transportation, and you can see the results now. And it spawned not just a nationwide, but a worldwide investigation by people like us into fraud.
And do you think it's safe to say that the local government, Tim Walz, Ilhan Omar, Keith Ellison, they were complicit in allowing specifically the Somali population go through and commit this fraud because they knew they could then call out people for being a racist or Islamophobic?
There's no question that was a culture, certainly within the department in charge of these programs, that stymied open talk. You were intimidated if you said anything that was even a little bit deemed as politically incorrect. And the specific issue around racism, which I heard from Faye, was the biggest insult that you could ever make is to call someone a racist. And I think the biggest insult is that you're a liar and a cheat, and you're taking advantage of your fellow man and trying to hurt them. And the fact that they lost their priorities on these issues, to me, is very concerning. It's one of the reasons that we've been actively looking at how we can investigate these programs more effectively. And to protect the federal taxpayer, we've had to look at what's been submitted to us and defer in this state, in Minnesota, defer $350 million. But in California, which might be the varsity team, the amount of problems we saw there forced us to defer $1.34 billion. That's a lot of money. That's just for the quarter, by the way. So these are the kinds of numbers we're talking about. Can I just give you an affordability nexus here, just to sort of put it in everyone's mind? Because a lot of people watching now, I hope, are working their tails off. But the belief that one day, when they get to age 65, they could retire and enjoy the bountiful benefits of Medicare. A beautiful safety net system, crown jewel of our program, that will help you through all your healthcare expenses when you're getting to retirement age. The life expectancy of that program is so
definitely,
short
Nick is
now.
brave,
A lot of people
definitely.
your age, Nick, don't think it's going to be there for them. Do you have an opinion? Do you think Medicare will be there for you?
At this rate, no. I mean, if we continue to get looted, I mean, unless you do something about it, we're not going to have it.
Well, I'm going to make this commitment because I've run these numbers. If we can take out the fraud from Medicare, just the Medicare, not the whole $100 billion of fraud we think exists, but just the Medicare, we will double the life expectancy of
Good
the
morning,
Medicare
good
trust
morning.
fund. That's
Thank you
the part
guys
of
for being in
your
the
paycheck
chat.
that you pay,
Appreciate it.
every
Name is
month, every
Deunta.
week,
Thank you, guys.
towards making sure that you
Thank
have
you.
Medicare coverage for the country. We will double the life expectancy of that. So you'll have it, your kids will have it, and hopefully their kids will have it. And we don't have to charge you extra tax. We don't have to go after anyone's home. We don't have to, knock out people from playing in the game of life in America. We just have to take the fraud out. That's our job. It's our duty. It's our responsibility.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Dr. Oz. Now we're going to go talk with Attorney McDonald about specifically what they found here in Minnesota. Thank you very much. The fraud here in Minnesota has been going on for so long, for so many years, and today, finally, these fraudsters have been held accountable. What exactly did you guys get these fraudsters on? Today is we've announced charges against 15
Mr. Rick, good
fraudsters
morning.
here in Minnesota who were defrauding 7 different programs, Medicaid programs, and also a child care funding program here in the state of Minnesota. There's a range of charges for these defendants, including healthcare fraud, conspiracy to commit healthcare fraud, wire fraud, and other fraud charges. Most of these charges, they'll carry maximum sentences of 5 years up to 20 years. And as we heard earlier today, the architect of the Feeding Our Futures case was sentenced this morning for her role in defrauding USDA. She was sentenced to 41 years in prison for her conduct being the ringleader of that scheme. And so there's 15 people charged, a few arrests. One man jumped out of a 4-story building. Yeah. Last name's Omar.
Wow.
I don't know if that's coincidence or not with Ilhan, but he jumped out of a 4-story building. And now, can you kind of get into specifics of, like, we know there's autism fraud. We know there's a
Fraud is bad.
childcare fraud. Yeah. What was the other fraud that these people were committing? So the fraud today was, it did involve autism. It involved in-home health services and also the housing stabilization services program. So that involved helping place homeless into
Thank
homes.
you, guys. Thank you. We're growing. Let's grow.
Involves home health services for the elderly or the disabled. And so you have folks who will start a business to then be capable of billing Medicaid. They have to go out. They have to actually find real people. They got to find real patients who actually need these services. They get them on their books, and then they fail to give them the actual services. But what do? They still send Medicaid the bill. And that's a scheme that we've seen here, that we see it replicated across the country. We also brought charges in a child care center in relation to a child care center today. And that's also a major focus of ours is the home health care programs, the food programs, the daycare programs, and then really everything else. But we see common themes of billing for services never provided, billing for patients that were never patients, or billing for children that were never children under the care of a particular daycare
So,
outfit.
Brian,
I think something that's powerful about today is you're seeing actual synergy between a citizen like myself who went and exposed the fraud, and then the government coming in and stepping in. Because I think a lot of people feel like, oh, I can only do so much. Like, I'm just watching the news. What can I actually do? But you can actually go out and make a difference, and then the government can actually go in and do the prosecution. I had no idea when I made that video that all this would happen, but the government was watching because it is our tax dollars that was getting stolen. And then I think like there's a beautiful synergy happening right now inside the country, and I hope this gives people more hope to actually go out and make a difference inside their communities and be able to have that trust that, okay, if we see something, if we see a random daycare with no children, let's say something, and now let's have that faith that our government will go in and do the prosecution and go
do the investigation as well. Yeah, that's exactly right. I'm an assistant attorney general, but I'm just a guy like you. I watched your videos with my kids, and they thought they were great. Yeah. And so to really solve this problem, it requires everybody to come together and say enough is enough. And so your work, the work of the agents, the prosecutors, everyone. This should not be a controversial issue. That it's something that we need to solve. It really shouldn't be. So I encourage and I commend you for doing this work and for highlighting certain things. And I invite anyone else to also jump into the game there and help us figure out what fraud is occurring, and then we could run with investigating it and trying to bring it to fruition. Because every case requires documents, it requires witnesses, it requires live bodies to actually testify to what has happened here, whether something happened or didn't happen. We rely on people in the community to be those voices for us at trial, for instance. We need everybody to be reporting what they see, so that we can try our best to root out this fraud and do it better than we've done it. Yeah.
He just got more than 41 years in prison. The prosecution is
isn't even the money anymore. It's actually the silence.
Breaking news, a Minnesota judge has just sentenced the mastermind behind the Feeding Our Future fraud scheme, Amy Bach.
What's up, Florida? Good morning.
More than 41 years in prison. The prosecution is asking for a 50-year sentence, and her defense.
Usually I be at work on Fridays, so I'm glad to be off to share these videos with you guys, because fraud is bad.
It's about 3 years, so that's somewhere in the middle that they got that, but closer to what obviously the prosecution wanted. The scheme involved theft of nearly $250 million in COVID funding. That money was meant to feed hungry children. State leaders claim they were unaware of the fraud. Here's what Amy Bach told our Alexis McAdams from jail back in January.
I honestly believe Keith Ellison and Governor Walz need to be held accountable. There needs to be an investigation done. If they weren't aware, that's concerning.
Exactly.
Breaking news.
41 years. That woman just got sentenced to basically an entire second lifetime behind bars.
Good morning.
A $250 million scam that was supposed to feed children during COVID. Think about how evil you got to be to steal from a program with starving kids attached to it. Really, sit back and think about that. That's not even regular corruption. That's movie villain behavior with nonprofit paperwork. And notice something else. The media only like giant fraud stories when the villain already matches their preferred casting choice. If the story had involved rural conservatives and, pickup trucks, this would have been a Netflix special narrated by George Clooney already, like for real. But this one is, everybody suddenly becomes a let's wait for all the facts philosopher. And the reason the story keeps growing legs is because every layer underneath it somehow smells worse than the last one.
Did you ask Minnesota Democrats to block the subpoena for the investigation of Feeding Our Future on the state level? The House Republicans are considering investigating Feeding Our Future now. Your role in it, would you cooperate with that subpoena and provide documents if they request it here in the House Oversight Committee? Did you ask Minnesota Democrats to block?
This is what gets people talking. Not because she said something crazy, but because she answered absolutely nothing. Nothing. That hallway clip, man, is going to hit harder than a press conference ever would. Reporters asking direct questions about subpoenas and investigations, and she walks like somebody trying not to step on a landmine. People notice body language more than politicians do, I'm telling you. That's why the story refuses to die online. Americans can tolerate disagreement. I tell y'all that all the time. What they can't is what they definitely hate is the feeling that somebody thinks they're stupid. Because when regular people hear $250 million, dollars stolen, then see politicians suddenly become allergic to microphones, the brain starts connecting dots automatically. And Democrats created this mess themselves. For years, they sold the country this idea that asking questions equals hate, that scrutiny itself is offensive, that oversight is somehow cruel if the wrong group gets investigated. No. If tax money disappears, online questions are coming. Period.
Ilhan Omar. Is she really, out of all of them? She has been so silent about this fraud that it speaks so much as to how involved she is in the fraud. If she had nothing to do with the fraud, she would be able to defend herself. But instead of defending herself, she's gone completely silent, not even trying to work with anybody who's exposing the fraud. She knows that billions and billions of dollars has been lost, but she won't even work with investigators, or she won't even work with local media, and she won't even. They gave her the option to. They gave her a final date to give some of the information about the future fraud that she's involved in. She couldn't give any information. I mean, she lost $29 million over the since I exposed her. Ilhan Omar. Is she really, out of all of them?
Nick Shirley, he tapped into something here that most journalists won't say because they're too busy trying to sound, ethical on television. Silence changes meaning depending on the moment. Sometimes silence is maturity. Sometimes silence is wisdom. And sometimes silence feels like somebody checking to see if the room already knows. That's why people are locked in on this story right now. Not because every accusation has already been proven, but because the reactions feel unnatural. Nobody's fighting back with confidence. Nobody's charging, in the interviews saying, the documents. Everybody looks tense, defensive, and careful. That's what's making this spiral online.
Of the 87 people charged, all but 8 are of Somali descent. And that has added to the spotlight being put specifically on your community. Why do you think this fraud
they gotta do their job.
was
These
allowed to
rhinos,
get
man.
so
That's the
widespread?
problem.
Well, I want to say, this also has an impact on Somalis because we are also taxpayers in Minnesota. We also could have benefited from the program and the money that was stolen. And so it's been really frustrating for people to not acknowledge the fact that we're also as Minnesotans, as taxpayers, really upset and angry about the fraud that has occurred.
Of the
Right, good citizen. Right, good morning.
All but 8 are of Somali.
And now the Learning Center story, comes back, or Leering Center. Leering Center, apparently. I'm sorry, but America watched empty buildings receive millions of dollars while parents work actual jobs trying to afford eggs and gas.
Veterans too.
That's the part that burns people up, not the fraud, not just the fraud. The arrogance of it, because somebody out there thought the public.
Yeah, my mom had 7 kids. My grandmother had 11 kids.
Would never look closely enough. That's the real disease in politics right now. Too many people in power operate like oversight is, optional as long as the branding sounds compassionate enough. Put for the children on the paperwork. And suddenly nobody's allowed to audit anything.
$30 million the next time she's not.
You in the government.
There's been a
I
lot
did
of
not get audited.
investigation
You in
into
the
what you knew
government.
about these welfare programs that have benefited mostly the Somali community in Minneapolis. But here's the financial disclosure
Right, but it ain't about birth control. It's about getting rid of the baby.
for her tax returns was at $6 million to $30 million. And then she said, I made a mistake. It's
Yes,
more
he
like
is.
I'm
Still
worth
our president. Yes,
$18,000 to
he is.
$95,000. Is that a red flag to anyone?
She claims it was a discrepancy. And the House, that's a big one, right? And I think it's a big discrepancy between 6 million and 30 million. Right. I mean, what is it? You should know how much is in your bank account, right? Or how much you're worth. House Oversight has now referred the House Ethics Committee
you guys.
to
That's
investigate
MAGA, baby.
she's facing some intense scrutiny now, and they're demanding answers. And some of them have been talking about subpoena. James Comer could use his federal power to subpoena her. They tried to do this at the local level in Minnesota, but she needed 6 votes, and they had 5 Republicans and 3 Dems. So the Republicans didn't have the 6 votes they needed, so it failed. It killed the motion. But this goes back to Amy Bach. She made explosive claims. She is in a county jail, and she's the one that was convicted, the mastermind of the $250 million Feeding Our Future fraud scheme in Minnesota. There's her picture. Well, in jail, she was interviewed, and Amy claimed that Omar's office actively intervened, to sustain meal waivers when they were about to expire. And she says that Ilhan Omar knew about the multi-million-dollar scam and helped keep the program operating without strict inspections.
Here's Alexis McAdams with that interview.
What about Ilhan Omar, who went...
And now you got financial disclosure questions mixed into the fraud story too. That's why the internet won't let this go. Every week, the situation picks up another backpack full of pranks. First, it's the vid fraud,
She wrote the bill. Regina, all right.
Silence. Now, financial discrepancies.
Get up out of here.
But, I mean, I'm not going to act like we're totally surprised. We knew this. But at some point, the story stops feeling random to viewers. And that's why establishment politicians hate independent media figures so much now. Not because they're always right, no. But because they keep forcing stories to survive longer than the news cycle wanted them to. 10 years ago, the story probably would have disappeared in 4 days. Now, people clip everything, archive everything, repost everything, compare everything. Political memory used to last, about 48 hours? The internet, that keeps the receipts with a vengeance.
A lot of these people hide it. I think one of the things that's extraordinary is we don't even know who the dual citizens are. So we know, for example, in the case of Ilhan Omar, she was born a citizen of Somalia.
Subscribe if you guys haven't already. We are growing, team. We are growing. Thank you, guys.
Somalia. And certainly the way that she acts and all of the people she helped defraud this country in Minnesota in order to help Somalia would suggest it. Many of her public remarks say she's Somalia first. We don't know, but this would say, again, someone like Ilhan Omar, assuming she's still a citizen of Somalia, would have to give it up. You're either American or Somalian. Look, we don't want foreigners serving in Congress. I don't want French citizens serving in Congress. I don't want Armenian citizens serving in Congress. I don't want Israeli citizens serving in Congress. The only people who should be serving in Congress are American citizens.
Right.
A lot of these people hide it. I
think
one of the
right here. This is where the conversation gets radioactive because
Regina not gonna win. Nope, it's over with.
Politicians dance around carefully until public frustration gets high enough, right? And whether people agree with this bill or not, you can already feel what public sentiment is drifting. Americans are getting tired of leaders who sound emotionally disconnected from people, paying the taxes. The frustration,
you silly,
has been building for years now.
You silly, Bill.
Right? Not just with Omar, but with the entire political class. People don't want representatives who sound temporary visitors, managing somebody else's house.
Come up with a word, because they are good. They're rotten with policy. They're horrible politicians. In many cases, we have a new name. They're Democrats. I call them Democrats, not Democrats. They're Democrats. A lot of low IQ people. You have Ilhan Omar saying World War XI. She said she was referring to World War II. She said World War XI. These people are destroying our country, and we have to stop it. President Xi said something yesterday. He talked about, and he wasn't referring to the last 15 months. He talked about America's a nation in decline. And I said, you're right. But he wasn't talking about it because he said, what you've done in 14, 15 months is a miracle. When you hear Trump up with a word, because
then Trump comes in at the end like a comedian walking on a stage after a 3-hour documentary. That's why he still dominates attention, man. He understands political timing better than
right. Florida, preach, Florida, bring it out, right? Bring the facts, right?
He gives moments, right? And honestly, than World War XI. You know, because it probably would have disappeared in 24 hours if this fraud scandal wasn't already hanging over everything else. But once public perception shift, every mistake suddenly gets replayed with a new meaning attached to it. That's politics now. Not just facts, momentum. And right now, the story got momentum. You know, the story got momentum that.
Us keep bringing you these stories every day. More problems out of Baltimore City, y'all. That could have been the headline today. Could have been the headline 5 years ago. Could have been the headline 20 years ago. And it could have been the headline way back when I was born 40-something years ago, y'all. It's the same thing. Baltimore. But you know, Baltimore's probably gotten better, y'all. It's probably gotten much better.
Darnell, good morning, everybody. Good morning, Chad. Good morning.
They have a long way to go still, y'all. Today's story is about not only is the Inspector General still trying to get the city to cooperate with her on her fraud investigation.
Fraud is bad.
Still stonewalling her on that. But now she's finding even more discrepancy in the city's finances, including the amount of money that they're paying people who are no longer even working for the city, y'all. This is absolutely wild. I know I say that in every video about Baltimore, but it is. I mean, what other word can we use? You know, I'm trying to be diplomatic here, y'all. So we're gonna take a look at that today. So you have Baltimore paying people who are not working for the city anymore. They don't seem to have any standardized way of doing that, so it's just kind of all over the place. And at the same time, you have other reports that came out just this week saying, look, we don't even know what's going on with the money. Like, we got money coming in, we got money not coming in. We don't know who's spending it. We don't know where it's going. We don't know where it's supposed to be coming from. We just don't know. Over $50 million, y'all. So we're going to take a look at all that today. Don't forget, y'all, we are Paralegal School. If you or anyone you know are interested, click that first link down in the description. And without further ado, y'all, let's go ahead and get into it.
A lot comes down to equity and making sure that the city of Baltimore treats all their employees the same.
A new report by the Baltimore City Inspector General's office began with a confidential tip about concerns of special treatment within City Hall when it came to pay for employees that were headed out the door. Inspector General Isabel Cummings says the office investigated this permission leave years prior and were promised changes would be made.
Disproportionate amount being given to certain people wasn't supposed to happen anymore. And our tip was that it was. And that was substantiated.
The report details how the city paid $312,000 to employees in the process of leaving through this type of administrative leave since January 2024, including 5 mayor's office staff with less than 5 years tenure and 1 employee who had been on the job for 6 months. A couple even continued to get paid while on this leave even after they had formally left.
But then the time got pushed back, so during the time that you have permission leave, you're also accruing sick time.
Right, Darnell. On the real, we had both presidents.
And this is all during a time that you're not even.
So Obama funded it.
Think there would be some kind of standardized process. It looks like it's nepotism, favoritism, or maybe people who just don't know what the heck they're doing, y'all. I mean, that's also an explanation. Just there's no standardized processes for this sort of thing. You would hope that there isn't a more nefarious explanation now, wouldn't you?
The city does not have a formal policy, and the IG's office has highly encouraged them to consider one. In its response to the report, Chief Administrative Officer Faith Leach wrote it was the city's practice to use discretion in these cases, writing, quote, while this may result in different severance packages or amounts of administrative leave being offered to different employees, this by itself should not result in discriminatory impact.
This report wouldn't be possible under the current circumstances of the Inspector General's office, which remains at odds with the mayor's office as to how the job gets done.
A lot of things have changed. And unfortunately, this office is in litigation and I can't discuss things about that.
The IG sued after the city cut off their direct access to records. Mayor Brandon Scott has also said he'll be introducing legislation that would make changes, in part rolling back the office's full independence.
Our oversight system is not a political football, but its current structure has allowed it to become one.
Cummings says they have about 12 investigations left, that they've been able to get what they need from city data.
What kind of bind is that putting you into?
Well, we have to be incredibly creative. Luckily, I have an incredible team. We have to think of other ways to do things.
Meanwhile, she says they have 20 outstanding subpoenas. The lawsuit is ongoing. At Baltimore City Hall, Blair Sable, WMAR 2 News.
So here you have a city that desperately needs money, y'all. The poverty rate in Baltimore. I mean, have you seen The Wire? I know it's a fictitious show, but unfortunately, it represents the reality. And if you haven't seen it, you should go check it out. If you have seen it, maybe we should do a watch party. Watch it all again, y'all. So Baltimore, you would imagine if they have 64 millies, y'all, $64 million out there, you would imagine that there would be somebody like, hey, people aren't paying us. We have 64 millies out there that could go to helping our people, but nobody's paying. But according to this new audit, ain't nobody, it's nobody's job to get this $64 million, y'all. It's nobody's job. Or if it is somebody's job, they just like, maybe, it can wait.
A week after Fox 45 News reports Baltimore budget deficit has risen to $64 million. A new audit shines light on one reason the city could be in a dire situation. During today's Board of Estimates meeting, the council president admitted the city's finance department is failing, costing taxpayers money. Fox 45 Jeff Abel joins us live with those findings. Jeff.
Well, this new audit shows that millions of dollars in unpaid invoices went unpaid for months, and no one cared to pursue them. At City Hall today, a stunning admission. No one knows how many millions in unpaid invoices the city has failed to collect.
How much money has the city lost or not recouped because of our inability to manage these processes?
We will come back to you very quickly with a full accounting for that.
I think it's unacceptable to not have that answer today.
The questions came during the city's Board of Estimates meeting when city auditors released the findings of an audit at the finance department. The audit revealed gaping holes in the city's accounting practices, exposing untimely collection efforts, loan receivables which were never recorded, and invoices canceled without approval, and tens of thousands of dollars in unpaid balances which the city has simply failed to collect.
So y'all, doesn't it seem like this would be this might be a good business idea for us. Who out there, y'all, let's make a business. So y'all contact me, y'all. Let's make a proposal to Baltimore City. We're gonna form a company. I'm serious, y'all. Hit me up. Only for this though, y'all. Don't hit me with no buzz, you know. If you want to form a company with us, make a proposal to Baltimore City. We're gonna collect this 64 millies, y'all. Or we'll buy the debt for 1 cent on the dollar. We'll give them $640,000 and then we get to collect, y'all. Let's do it, right? And then we go out and get this $64 million and we get a portion. We'll negotiate, y'all. Hit me up. Let's make this happen. We all blow up, make us some millions and help the city out.
Investigation analysis by the city, and so basically it would just be waiting for the vendor to pay.
If a resident does not pay their BGE bill, I know darn well BGE is going to figure out a way to collect. We should be similarly ruthless. At very minimum, we should collect on our bills.
The audit covers fiscal years 2023 and 2024, and most of the unpaid bills surround utilities, permits, and leases. The city's finance director blames staffing shortages for the failures.
We simply didn't have the staff. We had significant staffing shortages across both revenue collections and accounting.
We are in a moment where public faith in institutions, particularly government, is at an all-time low.
The audit drew outrage from council members and critics. Another reason to support the Inspector General, wrote Kim Klacik on social media. With the city facing a $64 million deficit, this was not the news city leaders had hoped to hear.
It is extremely disturbing to learn through this audit that there are many dollars, we do not know how much as of yet, that are not coming in that are not being collected in order to pay for.
So yeah, y'all, and all
That's
this
what I'm talking
comes,
about,
don't
team.
forget,
That's
on
what I'm talking
top
about,
of the
team. Get them out of
ongoing
here.
fraud
Time out or
investigations
get them out of
into
here.
Baltimore
Thank
City,
you, team.
that the mayor's office is, many people say stonewalling. It certainly does look like that to me, but I'm on the outside looking in, you know, so you have to be kind of cautious with the way you characterize things, but it looks like stonewalling to me.
Has claimed that their access to records was cut because they did a report on Muncie. This is simply not true.
Baltimore's battle over the Inspector General's access to city documents continues today with a release statement from the OIG, firing back at Mayor Brandon Scott. The response follows the mayor's announcement last night to propose sweeping changes for the OIG. The four-step plan includes changes to how the Inspector General requests and receives city records and demands for more oversight over its office. And now questions are being raised on why Mayor Scott is introducing these sweeping measures against the OIG right now.
Good evening, and thank you for joining us. I'm Kai Jackson.
And I'm Mary Fubala. Fox 45's Mackenzie Frost is live in studio with us today with the OIG's response to the mayor's proposal. And the big question, Mackenzie, why is this happening now?
Very kind. That's the question that's been echoing throughout City Hall for months. Why is the access being restricted now? For years, the Office of Inspector General had access to these records for investigations. And now,
What's up, Mark?
the Watchdog says Mayor Brandon Scott's plan is not about accountability, but rather about control. As the showdown continues between Mayor Brandon Scott and the Office of Inspector General over access to records,
A clear process.
the mayor is proposing a four-pronged plan, he argues, is a way to restore trust with the public, including hiring an outside firm to review the mayor's Office of Neighborhood Safety and Engagement and the Sidestep program. Two things at the center of the ongoing battle.
We need someone neutral to restore trust with residents and finally close the book on this investigation.
But that forensic auditor team will have the same access to records the city's watchdog has.
They will have access to everything legally.
Now the OIG is firing back, calling Mayor Scott's plan an effort to undermine the voters of Baltimore, eviscerate the independence enshrined in the OIG, and regain power over what should be a truly independent office. In 2018 and 2022, Baltimore City voters changed the charter to further protect the independence of the OIG. Now, the Watchdogs team says the mayor's plan is not accountability, it is control.
So yeah, y'all, problems in y'all.
I think you guys will like it. That's why I showed you. I think you'll like it.
We should form a company. Who out there, who of my listeners has the expertise to form a company or already has a company like this? Forensic accounting, collections. Let's put something together. Let's put together an enterprise, y'all. Hit me up. But in the meantime and in between time, y'all, they're just going to keep suffering. It's going to happen.
Give me a second.
Seven different state-managed Medicaid programs. Cracking down on the alleged fraudsters in Minnesota, announcing 15 people have been charged in a massive Medicaid scheme, costing you, the taxpayer, $90 million.
Madeline Rivera is live from Washington with all the details. Hi, Maddie. Good morning, Carly and Todd. That's right. Federal officials say the fraud targeted 7 Medicaid programs, some of which were intended to secure housing for the homeless and treat children with autism. One defendant, Mohammed Omar, is now behind bars after trying to flee authorities. He was wanted for more than $3 million in alleged Medicaid fraud. Here are some of the other defendants. Prosecutors say Shamso Ahmed Hassan submitted more.
need you $2. Oh, you got me 14 signatures.
The petitioner Brenda Brown hands cash money to the homeless person, not only for signing the California ballot initiative, but also as payment for them to register to vote.
Now, because you have a
Voter fraud, all types of fraud. God dang.
That is a federal felony. And it didn't just happen once. It happened over and over and over again. We personally witnessed and covertly filmed this happening at least 28 times over the span of our investigation. And that is just in Los Angeles. Many of the homeless have zero understanding of what it is that they're actually signing.
But what is our petition for? You know the petition for?
The petitioners instruct the homeless to enter made-up addresses like Pinocchio Lane.
Where do I put it in my address? Yeah, just put up. You live on Pinocchio Lane? Oh, good.
And all of this occurring just outside the front doors of shelters and NGOs such as Weingart Center, which have received hundreds of millions of dollars in government
Thank you.
One Weingart employee tells us when and where to find the illegal cash exchanges for signatures outside, and says the cash being given out is coming from a higher source.
Do you know if they provide the money that they're handing out?
Yeah,
the company does.
When they give the money out, they got to go back and tally up if they stealing the money or not. So they got to have it. Most of them be right across the street under that tree. You can check with them Monday to Friday.
While another Weingart employee advises the homeless on how to practice plausible deniability and ignorance of the law.
But a lot of times I have to say I didn't know. I have no idea. Or that would be what he should say.
The petitioners orchestrate an elaborate pyramid scheme of unregistered petition circulators.
If I were to hire you, you would be under me. Yes. I'm under my son. I'm under him, and you under me. So it's like a pyramid game. And really, I don't need you. You need me. I don't need you.
One of the petitioners threatens to attack one of our journalists.
Go down the street, bro, before we move you down the street.
Yeah. I know that was a long intro, but I wanted to give you guys a refresher on what this story is all about. Shout out to James O'Keefe doing that story quite some time ago, actually. I don't remember when it first initially dropped, but actually I remember I made a video on it, actually, if I remember correctly. So you see there, they're paying people for signatures, paying people to register to vote, and signing them up at just random addresses in California where they send out mail ballots. Interesting. Well, we got an indictment, ladies and gentlemen. Yeah, we have a fraud indictment. And that is why I played that opening clip. Check it out.
A Los Angeles County woman has agreed to plead guilty to paying people on Skid Row to register to vote. Federal officials announcing the charge against Brenda Lee Brown Armstrong this week, which carries a maximum penalty of 5 years in prison. The National News Desk Jeff Harris joining us. And according to her plea agreement, we do know Brown Armstrong allegedly worked as a petition circulator for nearly 2 decades. There is striking social media video. What else is coming to light?
So in that plea agreement,
Frog
Brown
indictment.
Armstrong admitting
Damn.
to working as a paid petition circulator, allegedly targeting the homeless while gathering signatures throughout the Los Angeles area. The bombshell admission coming after federal officials got their hands on an undercover video. The Justice Department announcing this week Brown Armstrong has been federally charged and has agreed to plead guilty to 1 felony count of paying another person to register to vote, including the homeless along LA Skid Row.
We're committed to protecting the integrity of all American elections at the Department of Justice Civil Rights Division. But there needs to be a commitment by people and leaders here in California.
According to her plea agreement, Brown Armstrong, for nearly 2 decades, worked as a petition circulator, being paid by coordinators to gather signatures to qualify initiatives, recalls, and referendums for California state ballots.
Amazing.
She paid the homeless around $2 or $3 to fill out voter registration forms, instructing them to use her own former LA residence. When asked what led federal officials to her, they pointed to this undercover video taken by James O'Keefe and the O'Keefe Media Group.
Because you haven't registered, I need to register you so I get paid too. Okay, you got I need to get paid.
In it, you can see and hear Brown Armstrong handing out cash in exchange for those signatures.
I think that was widely reported. It was all over the press, and as a result of that, we initiated and opened up a criminal investigation with the FBI.
Correspondent with O'Keefe Media Group, Michael Casey, was with the team on Skid Row filming undercover. He tells the National News Desk on Tuesday these federal charges prove their hard work paid off.
It wasn't just, a slap on the wrist. This is an actual real result. This is a guilty plea. And I think it's just the beginning. So this is really the fruit of our labor paying off right now.
Casey adding with this guilty plea, the quote, dam has broken, as he expects more indictments to be handed down.
She is pleading guilty for a reason. She pled guilty right off the bat. She's definitely naming names. She's definitely telling people what her sources were, who her contacts were, who's directing her to do this illegal activity. And I think and I hope that that's going to lead to much more indictments.
A thought echoed by federal officials while announcing Brown Armstrong's charge.
This is an ongoing active investigation. Ms. Brown is simply the first person that we are announcing charges for in this investigation resulting from some undercover videos that took place at Skid Row.
Now, Brown Armstrong has already made her initial court appearance. After agreeing to plead guilty, she faces a maximum of up to 5 years in federal prison and is expected to officially enter her guilty plea in the coming weeks.
Now, do I think they're going to make it all the way to the top of the food chain? No. Highly unlikely. Highly unlikely. Because, of course, the higher up you get, the more strategic they're going to be, the closer to, the top they are. And so I'm sure some money has already been thrown their way. Hey, if they come after you, just take your time and go on about your business. Don't mention me.
Yeah.
I'll have a check for you when you get back out or something, type deal. Now, hopefully they do. And these indictments are a major step in the right direction. Because here's the issue. You're going out there, you're signing up random homeless people to vote at some random address. You get some ballots mailed to that address. Those homeless people aren't filling them out. Or maybe you do get them to fill them out. You mark who you want the candidates to be, and you go back and find those same homeless people and you get them to sign it. So now, right, and you're only paying them, $4 in total? You paid them $2 to sign up and $2 when you came back to re-sign right? So now you're only spending $4 to possibly change the vote in California. $4. Just saying. So when Uncle Trump said they're cheating.
They're cheating.
Was he wrong? Yet another way that Democrats were trying to cheat. We found it. We found another way, right? The difference between a conspiracy theory and the truth is 6 to 7 months. In this case, it's been a little bit longer, but you get the gist of it, right? You get the gist of it. But yeah, man, indictment coming down. Here's part of that clip as well here.
The Department of Justice has charged a longtime California signature gatherer under 52 U.S.C. Section 10307, subsection C, with one count of paying another person to register to vote in a federal election. The defendant, Brenda Lee Brown Armstrong, has signed a plea agreement and has admitted her guilt on this charge. According to the plea agreement, and my colleague Bill Asaley will be able to answer any specific questions about it, she worked as a petition circulator, aka signature gatherer here in Los Angeles for approximately 20 years. And starting in 2025 or so, after Ms. Brown Armstrong had a practice of going down to Skid Row here in Los Angeles, getting homeless people to sign these signature petitions that had to do with qualifying ballot measures and et cetera, she would sometimes find that the signatures would be disqualified because the people signing
Good morning,
these
Faith. Welcome to the
signature
chat. You're right. Get rid of all that voting fraud. You see it. You hear it.
Flaw in her
Petty.
business arrangements. She would then gather, starting in 2025, stacks of voter registration forms from the Los Angeles County Registrar of Voters, and then go to Skid Row in downtown Los Angeles to have homeless people first sign the voter registration forms, and then sign the signature petitions. And she did this in exchange for cash and other items of value, inducements both for the voter registration and for the signature petitions. These were often small.
And that's what she told you so far.
Right.
Yeah, man. It's going to be interesting to watch this whole thing unravel. Because, of course, like you heard there, she's squealing. And I'm sure initially she didn't tell the whole truth and nothing but the truth. She told some of it.
They talk for less than a minute. Then she opens the door and lets him in. She would never come out alive.
Well, Abe, it happened again. It happened again. Another one of those BLM flag waving, BLM shirt buying, gullible white chicks.
This is my man Salty Cracker. He's man, he be ranting raving for real. He be on it. He lives in California, so he lives with the shithole situation be going on. But check him out as well. Salty Cracker.
Just got killed by a black dude. The police interview of this is brutal. Wait till we get to that part of this video. And I'm not celebrating that. I'm not interested in people dying. Even when it's people dying from their own politics, dying from their own suicidal empathy.
Okay, that's what's up then, Salty. Cool. See how we all connect, man? That's what's up.
I'm trying to protect people in the future for not falling for the same stupid left-hard woke nonsense that got this woman killed. Don't ever let your kids be woke tards. Right? Your kid's a heroin addict. I mean, what are you gonna do? What are you gonna do? Right? Maybe get your kid hooked on nicotine. Don't do any of that, by the way. But boy, you don't want your kid. You don't want to find out that your daughter is a woke tard, man. This is brutal. These are crazy stories, and we told you that this was going to happen. It just keeps happening. Every year, I make a video or so on this. I'm skipping a bunch of these, by the way, right? Because this dude, it's not his first rodeo. He did this to a couple people a few months ago, right? He's constantly assaulting women, then trying to kill them, and then setting their basements on fire, and then gets released early from prison for good behavior because judge don't want to be seen as racist. Right? Oh my God, 1619! Don't you care about implicit bias? Huh? Got some other feminist
Thank you for that. Appreciate it.
Lesbian University not over here about stupid shit. Race politics. No.
Thank you.
So anyway.
Like, share, and subscribe. Thank you, guys. Thank you so much.
Startup CEO. She goes inside of her apartment. Right? Punches in her code. And then this guy goes, hey,
J Park, okay, thanks for being in the chat. Appreciate it.
And she goes,
Common Sense channel here, man. It's more than just being MAGA.
No, she didn't do that. Of course she didn't.
America first.
Do that, because that's a racism. Remember this?
I can. Do you live here? I'm sorry. The keypad is right there.
Go punch the keypad.
You can film me. That's fine.
I understand that, but you're blocking me.
Into my building.
Okay. It's my building as well, so I need you to get out my way.
Yeah. So just go use the keypad. It's your building, so you know the code, right? You know the code.
Right.
So just go down there and punch the code in, because we're not letting strangers into the building, right? I'm a woman. Kind of worried about that. No. Here's NBC maligning her. NBC, BLM, and stupid white bitches maligning that poor woman for instituting the building's policy of one person at a time and use the keypad. Well, no, I'm black. I don't got to use the keypad. That's racist. And so she learned her lesson. She's like, whoa. I don't want NBC to malign me. I don't want to be called a racist on Facebook. Whatever you kids are using these days. And so, no. Come on in, black dude. And now she's dead.
Out of there.
Now she's dead.
Crazy.
She didn't want to be called a racist, and now she's dead. And she devoted her entire life to racial equity, guys. She cared so much, right? Building a company to help black people because she cares so much about black people. She understands that black people are disproportionately painted as the bad guy. This police officer interviewing this dude, and he doesn't get it. This guy doesn't care. This guy's a monster. You're talking to a monster. You're trying to be reasonable to a monster. And he's like, the woman that you killed, she was on our side, brother.
Right.
She was an ally. She was one of the good whites. Hey, you go kill some of those other filthy honkies, right? Some of those racist, blood white whores. But this one was one of ours. Couldn't you tell from the nose ring? He don't care. He's a monster, bro. He's a monster.
The pillar in the community, going into her apartment, trying to make her life better and the lives better for everybody around her. She fought for Black Lives Matter. She fought for
Damn.
right? She fought for all of that. She
All lives matter.
for all of that.
But wow, that's crazy.
The very thing and the very people she fought for, she died at the hands of this guy.
Yeah, he don't care. He's killing chicks. He doesn't care. But you think he cares about BLM? Nobody cares about BLM except for the criminals and fraudsters benefiting from it by pretending to care about black people. No, all those black lesbian chicks with their mansions, they don't give a shit about black dudes. He don't care about black dudes. Hey, man, she was on our side, man. She cared so much about not being a racist. She was calling people a racist if they pointed out 1350. Wow. Yeah. And then he got herself killed. Yeah. She was worried about implicit bias. He brings up all of the terms. Look at this. Look at this. That's what that, like, here's the company that she was starting up.
Technology stands against systemic racism,
bigotry. Yeah.
In a police state that criminalizes black bodies.
Most definitely.
That's what she promotes. That's what she was about.
Yeah. You think he cared?
That's why she trusted.
Yep.
And wasn't biased.
Yeah, wasn't biased. She trusted you. She wasn't biased. Again, and now she's dead. Yeah, she should have been a little bit more biased. Me, I'm a full-out racist at this point. Yeah, I know. You be a little bit more biased. This is the most incredible. This is textbook suicide empathy. Textbook. I don't want to be called a racist like this woman demanding a black dude use the keypad, even though it's building policy and it makes total sense. And now she's dead. Well, she wasn't a bias. Well, there you go. She died not being a racist. I think if you could ask her, like, you want to mulligan this? You want to be a little bit more racist and tell the dude no? Go use the keypad. Bro, use the keypad. It's right there. Yeah, I got selective amnesia, bro. No, use the keypad. I'm not letting you in. Well, you're a racist. Yeah, that's fine, but I'm alive. Yeah. So I'm going to be fine with that. Yeah, watch me moonwalk out of the foyer over here as I don't give a fuck that I'm racist. Bye. Rather be alive. All right, guys. Thanks so much for watching the video. Support channel kept up to date on don't be a suicidal empathy individual. It's got bad outcomes. And then make way because the soul must flop.
Within an hour of the polls closing. He lost by 10 points. It was an unmistakable message that Trump has total iron control over the GOP, whether they like it or not.
Oh, yeah, Memorial Day.
Whether they like it or not, the Republican Party is being remade in Trump's image. The Republican Party is now officially the MAGA Party. Just ask Dan Crenshaw. Or better, even better, just ask Texas. To fathom. A new superpower alliance is rising from the Mediterranean to the Pacific, and it's literally changing everything, most especially the future of NATO. Stick with me to the very end of this video, because what I'm about to show you is not just a foreign policy story, it's the most important civilizational story of the 21st century, and almost nobody is covering it. Hey gang, it's me, Dr. Steve, your patron professor, enjoying yet another absolutely extraordinary day in the American Golden Age that you made possible back in November 2024. So if you want a front row seat as we watch Donald Trump reshape the entire global order with his own two hands, well, you know what to do. Make sure to smack that bell and subscribe button. All right, let's dive right in here, gang. The Earth realigning ramifications from the Trump-Xi summit continue to resonate throughout the rising world order. As many of you know, on May 14th, Donald Trump landed in Beijing for a state visit that Chinese state media immediately called historic, and they weren't wrong. The last time an American president visited Beijing on a state visit of this magnitude was nearly a decade ago. Just so happens it was Trump then as well in his first term. The pomp was extraordinary. Xi Jinping personally escorted Trump to the Temple of Heaven, one of the most symbolically charged locations in all of Chinese culture.
Yes, yes.
This was not a routine diplomatic meeting. This was a carefully staged signal to the entire world. China and America are talking at the highest possible level as the two great civilizationalist powers on the planet. Now, Trump came back with a treasure trove of commitments. China agreed to purchase 200 Boeing aircraft, more than the 150 that analysts had expected. NVIDIA received U.S. government approval to sell its H200 artificial intelligence chips to major Chinese tech firms, a massive reversal of the chip export ban that had been a centerpiece of the previous administration's China policy. Trump told Fox News that China had agreed to purchase American oil to lessen their dependence and reliance on Iran. Xi and Trump agreed to a 3-year strategic stability framework, which is Beijing's way of trying to lock in the current détente as the structural baseline for U.S.-China relations going forward for the foreseeable future. And Xi accepted Trump's invitation to visit the United States on September 24th before the 1-year trade truce expires in October. But what's so absolutely key here is that this summit established the two...
No, Trump threw all that stuff away. They can't bring some stuff back from China. You know, China is spies. They try to plant anything, any small device, a pen, a button, anything. So they threw all that stuff away. Before they got back on the plane, they brought burner phones, all that stuff. They knew what they was doing.
Two nations, United States and China, as the unparalleled civilizational giants on Earth, with the leverage clearly shifting towards the United States. And that's because of the new regional order that we're seeing emerge starting in the Middle East. Now, remember, earlier this week, Trump had ordered the United States military to prepare a very major attack, that's what he called it, on Iran, scheduled for Tuesday. Not a limited strike, not a targeted operation, a full large-scale assault. Then, within a 24-hour window, he received 3 separate phone calls from the Emir of Qatar, Saudi Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman, and UAE President Mohammed bin Zayed. All 3 called with the same message. According to Axios, give negotiations a chance. Give it a little more time while we continue to work to contain Iran. Now remember, these calls came at the same time it was revealed that Saudi Arabia and the UAE had launched a series of covert attacks against Iran. That was the first time that's happened ever in that region. And it was a very clear message.
Remember Swalwell and Fang Fang? That bullshit, you know, the spy balloons, all type of shit going on.
The Abraham Accords. Iran will, one way or the other, bow to Israeli muscle and Arab money. And the alliance between Israel and the Sunni Arab Gulf states, brokered, of course, by the United States to deliberately box out Chinese influence in the Gulf, is now the new sheriff in the region. And what's so key to understand about the Abraham Accords is they represent the sort of embryonic architecture of a new regional superpower bloc built on a shared
Subscribe. You guys haven't already. Appreciate it.
containing Iran, attracting Western investment, and building technological and economic prosperity throughout the Middle East. The Gulf states and Israel discovered that they had more in common as modernizing, innovation-driven economies than they had in conflict as ethnic and religious adversaries. So when Trump backed off from the planned strike, what so many in the legacy media missed was that he was actually demonstrating in that moment something very, very sophisticated. He demonstrated that he has built, remember, it was Trump who broke the Abraham Accords.
For days, wasn't the balloon floating for days?
He has built
From state to state.
trust-based relationships with the most important leaders in the Middle East, forming a new superpower alliance that will guarantee peace and prosperity throughout the region. This is exactly how the Abraham Accords are supposed to function. Israel and the Gulf nations more or less calling the shots, especially in relation to Iran, with U.S. security guarantees to back them up. And Trump is allowing the Abraham Accords to work precisely as he envisioned. Now, at the very same time, behind the scenes, Pakistan has been serving as a mediating back channel, delivering a revised 14-point Iranian peace proposal to Washington. Iran's President Pezeshkian is publicly saying that dialogue is not surrender, which is significant because Iranian presidents don't say things like that unless they have some level of internal authorization to say them. And Trump himself has said this is a bit different from what we've got before. There's a very good chance that we can work something out here. We are, for the first time in this conflict, in a genuine diplomatic window. How long it stays open, nobody knows, but it's open now. And again, that was largely secured by the Abraham Accords countries functioning precisely as Trump envisioned. But this new superpower alliance isn't just happening with the Middle East. Another power is rising, a power in the East that Trump sees as critical to this new world order realignment, and the victim may be old world alliances that Trump now sees as totally obsolete. Wait until you see this. But first, you have got to go right now to turleytraining.com because we're living through a time when a lot of people are beginning to realize something important. The old economic system, the one that told you to work harder, grind longer, and depend on institutions that frankly don't have your best interests in mind, is starting to break down. And you see it everywhere. Inflation, instability, and a growing sense that the system is increasingly designed for the benefit of a very small group at the top. And whenever we see moments like this historically, something interesting always happens. Ordinary people begin looking for ways to create independence from the system rather than depend on it. And that's why I want to invite you to a free training with someone I know personally, a good friend of mine named Ryan. Two of the world's most consequential civilizational powers are simultaneously breaking from their post-war constraints and stepping into full partnership with a resurgent Trumpian America. Japan's Prime Minister Sanae Takeichi, the proud heir to Shinzo Abe's nationalist legacy and Japan's first female prime minister, has shattered the pacifist 1% GDP defense ceiling entirely, approving a record 9 trillion yen defense budget for fiscal year 2026, the 14th consecutive annual increase, while lifting the ban on lethal arms exports and deploying long-range counter-strike missile capabilities aimed squarely at Beijing and Pyongyang. India, meanwhile, just received a landmark $428 million U.S. defense package covering Apache attack helicopters and M777 ultralight howitzers, and accepted it without any demands that New Delhi take sides in the Iran war or abandon its strategic autonomy. That framing is deliberate. Trump is building an Indo-Pacific security architecture on the basis of mutual respect and shared interests, not ideological litmus tests, the exact formula that has historically worked with both nations. Together, Japan and India represent over 500 million, or 1.5 billion, what am I saying? They represent over 1.5 billion people on the planet. They represent two of the world's 5 largest economies and 2 civilizations that share one overriding strategic reality: a rising aggressive China on their doorsteps. Trump is not creating that shared interest. He's simply finally organizing it into a coherent alliance. And the result is the most powerful military coalition in the Indo-Pacific since the end of the Cold War. So now the question comes down to this. With this rising superpower alliance stretching all the way from the Mediterranean to the Pacific, made up of new and rising superpowers, what on earth are we to make of NATO and the old, disappearing, octogenarian, dying, decaying societies in Europe? While Trump was in Beijing securing deals, while Gulf leaders were calling him to pause the Iran war and enforce the new regional architecture, as both India and Japan continue to rise as major military forces aligned with the United States, the NATO alliance has been quietly but irreversibly fracturing. And it's fracturing specifically because of Iran. As you know, Spain closed its airspace to American military flights headed for the Middle East. Italy denied the U.S. permission to operate heavy bombers from Italian air bases. Britain and France refused to participate in Trump's proposed Strait of Hormuz blockade. NATO allies collectively said, "This is not our war, and we will not be compromised or conscripted into it." Trump's response was characteristically direct. "We've always been there for you, but you're not there for us."
Damn.
Trump called the refusal a stain on the alliance that will never disappear. Now, here is the profound question that strategic analysts are now openly asking, in language that would frankly have been considered unthinkable 5 years ago. Will the United States come to the aid of its NATO allies if they're attacked? That question, the foundational assumption of the entire post-World War II Atlantic order, is now genuinely in doubt. Not because Trump formally withdrew from NATO, but because the relationship has been so damaged by mutual distrust and divergent interests that the alliance really is functionally operating as 2 separate entities. So you've got this U.S.-led transactional security network in the Middle East and the Gulf going all the way into the Pacific. And then you got this European self-defense consortium that's actually rapidly rearming independently. If you don't know, NATO's defense spending is up 62% since 2020. Not necessarily because Europe agreed with Trump that they had to increase their spending or anything like that, but because Europe can no longer assume America will be there when they need it. And here's the civilizational insight that ties all 3 threads together: the Pacific, the Gulf, and Brussels, into a single coherent picture. The liberal international order that the United States built
It was
from
high, y'all.
1945
Shit.
to roughly 2016, when Trump was first elected, was held together by one central promise: that America's alliances were based on shared values, not necessarily shared interests. So democracies stood together. The free world was a community, not a coalition of the convenient. Donald Trump has rejected that premise entirely, not as a strategic error, but as a deliberate, considered choice. He's replacing the values-based order with a transactions-based order, where relationships are built on deals, on respect, on results, and on networked, multipolar, civilizational alliances, where the Emir of Qatar gets a phone call returned because he asked for one respectfully, where Xi Jinping gets a state visit because he signed a trade truce, where European allies who refuse to fight get thrown to the back seat. This is a completely different theory of American power, and it's the most radical foreign policy transformation since the founding of NATO itself. The old order is over. The world that built it no longer exists. Trump isn't just remaking our nation. He is indeed, very effectively, remaking the world. It overturned the Democrats' entire structural strategy for congressional majorities. And the ruling got almost immediately effectuated, as it were. It was in just 5. Normally, there's a 32-day standard window before you start enforcing a Supreme Court decision. They started enforcing it within 5 days. And that enabled states to immediately begin redrawing maps. What the 6 conservative justices said is unmistakable. You cannot use race. I can't even believe I have to say this. You cannot use race as the dominant factor in drawing congressional districts. Even if you call it, I don't care if you call it a remedy. I don't care if you call it justice. I don't care what you call it, equity. Call it Stephen. Call it whatever you want. It's still wrong. It's still reverse racism. And the ripple effects are going to be felt by this from Florida to Mississippi to Virginia to every single state where Democrats have been weaponizing race to guarantee literally hundreds of congressional seats. And I'm not being hyperbolic. This isn't a matter of a couple of dozen here or there like Politico originally projected.
Man.
We're talking hundreds. The American Spectator just published a very interesting piece, seriously asking the question as to whether the Democrat Party can even survive the Calais decision, given that so much of their power has been accumulated over the last 4 decades based more on geography than issues. The Spectator noted that the Democrats are poised to lose not just seats, they are on the cusp instead of structural, institutional, and perhaps permanent collapse as a violent
All right, Steve. Thanks for stopping by, Steve. Appreciate it.
Conclusion is not as hyperbolic as it might sound.
Make sure you like, share, and subscribe. Appreciate it.
Data straight from the U.S. Census Bureau's 2024 American Community Survey, and they identified 148 House districts that were drawn with race as the predominant factor under the old Section 2 standard, under the vote dilution standard. 148 seats. That's a full 1/3 of the entire House of Representatives. And of those 148 districts, 122 are currently held by Democrats. 122. Gang, that's more than half of the Democrats' entire 212-seat House caucus, sitting on maps that Calais just declared legally suspect. More than half their entire caucus, built on a foundation of race-based cartography that the Supreme Court has now condemned. And if you could believe it, it actually gets worse. The Democrat Stacey Abrams, right, the two-time loser for Georgia's governor, to her credit, she's openly panicking about the scope of the problem for Democrats, because she's arguing the scope goes way beyond congressional redistricting. That's what so many people don't get. Calais didn't just address the drawing of federal congressional lines. It laid down a constitutional principle that race cannot be the predominant factor in drawing any electoral district. That means state legislative districts. That means county commission districts. That means school board districts. That means city council district maps. In short, hundreds upon hundreds of districts deliberately drawn at the local and state level under the old Section 2 standard are now legally and constitutionally vulnerable. Even the ACLU is acknowledging this, warning that the ruling affects not only congressional redistricting, but challenges to state legislative and local election systems across the country. Abrams' outfit, her nonprofit, Fair Fight, I think it's going through a little investigation. I don't know, I shouldn't say that out loud, but they put out a report projecting that Republicans could pick up as many as 30 congressional seats alone in 2026 and 2028. But again, it's not just Congress. The downstream effect on state legislation.
No problem, Bill. Thank you, man. Appreciate you. Thank you.
More profound. The Republicans have the chance.
Thank you, guys. Hey, no problem, bud. I'm right here with you guys, man.
Literally,
Thank you, guys.
Hundreds of local seats.
Thank you, veterans. Y'all happy Memorial Day weekend.
The Democrats built their entire political infrastructure, their bench, their pipeline, their community organizing works on a foundation of race-engineered local representation. And Clay just cracked that foundation from top to bottom. So, closing the loop here on the midterms, Democrats are now in a position where they would need to flip seats that Republicans have now gerrymandered into fortress territory in states like Florida, Texas, Ohio, Tennessee, Missouri, North Carolina, and beyond. Now, keep in mind, this Inside's elections map, let's put that up again, because I think it's so beautiful. It's like a work of art. It doesn't yet include, there it is, beautiful. It doesn't yet include the new seats we're seeing coming from states like South Carolina, or the new seat from Mississippi, or the new seats, as many as 4, coming from Georgia, at least by 2028. And we could keep going on and on and on. The redistricting realignment has just started. This is nothing. And it's none other than panicked Democrats openly admitting it. The structural map has shifted underneath their feet, and most of the legacy media hasn't even begun to explain to their dwindling audiences how seismic this shift actually is. But if you can believe it, it gets even better. Because the structural advantages are not just on the map, they're in the money. The two tend to go together. The money tends to follow the maps. And so we're not just talking voter rolls here. Let's start with the money here, because these numbers are absolutely breathtaking. The lifeblood of politics, gang, money, cash. When it comes to cash on hand, the Republican National Committee, RNC, is absolutely blowing the Democrats out the water. Look at these numbers. The RNC now has nearly $124 million cash on hand. And by the way, they're debt-free. The Democrats are stuck at just over 14 mil. It's absolutely insane. Do you see what happens when we get rid of USAID? Isn't it wonderful? 124 mil to barely 14 mil. Republicans are literally out fundraising the Democrats 9-1. And to make it even worse, I mentioned that the RNC is debt-free. Ain't that way for the Democrats. They're reportedly 17 mil in debt. That means the DNC started 2026 broke, negative net worth. And think of all the money they wasted in Virginia. The whole gerrymandering referendum Hindenburg that went down in flames. They poured tens of millions of dollars only to see the whole thing go up in smoke. Oh, and by the way, that 124 million is nothing. For the RNC, that's just the front door to the mansion here. It's a trickle in the ocean. Pick your metaphor. Take a look at this. Again, if you want to see how dominant Trump is in this political realignment, Trump has amassed a near $1 billion. That's billion with a B. War chest for the midterms. That's 3x what the entire Democrat Party has been able to put together. $1 billion. Democrats are not just being out redistricted, they're being outspent. It's not just the map that's against them, it's the money. And again, they don't have a figure like Trump that can raise that kind of cash, that has that kind of political power, especially since they got doged. This is not a marginal fundraising edge. This is total financial dominance. But we're not through. It gets even better. Because now there's the voter registration numbers, which are the most accurate predictive indicators for how an election turns out. Again, notice that I'm not appealing to polls here.
Right, Kamala, she paid that money back. She lost, what, like you said, $1 billion and went $20 million in debt. What happened to all that money?
I'm appealing to structural realignments. The results are baked into the structures. Our good friend election analyst mentioned Seth Cashel.
Right, she paid Oprah.
That the Republican voter registration advantage is
Megan Thee Stallion
continuing as track party affiliation. Democrats have lost a net of over 5 million voters to Republicans since 2020. Can you imagine how many they've lost since the mass deportations or since the mass voter roll purges that's been happening over the last 16 months or so? I mean, it's absolutely astonishing. Even in Pennsylvania, my backyard here, where things are they were looking a little iffy there for the last couple of months with some big gains by Democrats. Even there, the Republicans have regained the lead in voter registration. And the key here is that voter registration is not just a snapshot in today's political preferences, it's a geological record of a shifting American electorate. When a voter changes their registration from Democrat to Republican, they're not just casting a vote, they're making an identity declaration. Rarely does a voter deliberately identify as a registered voter and then turn around and vote for the other identity. And we're watching that declaration happen on a mass scale in battleground states and swing counties and local communities that are working together with the new map and the massive money that's giving the GOP a very real structural advantage going into these midterms. So, in sum, what does all of this ultimately mean? The 37-0 endorsement sweep, the Massey and Cornyn earthquakes, the Georgia bellwether result, the redistricting revolution, the billion-dollar financial fortress, the voter registration tidal wave. What are we actually watching here? I would argue that we're watching the full expression of what I've been calling a civilizational realignment happening at every level of the American political system simultaneously. Down ballot, up ballot, on the map, in the money, in the voter rolls, in the courtrooms. Donald Trump is not just the most dominant figure in American electoral politics. He is systematically rebuilding the Republican Party from the precinct level to the Senate cloakroom. He is retiring the establishment candidates who blocked his agenda. He's installing MAGA loyalists who will fight. He's reshaping the congressional map with a redistricting revolution that Democrats have no legal tools left to stop. Like I said, they're helpless. When a party has 215 safe seats and only needs 3 more to keep the majority, when it has 8 times its opponent's cash reserves, when its voter registration is surging in states like Nevada and North Carolina and Florida, when its base voters are showing up for state Supreme Court races in Georgia at levels not seen in a generation, that's not a party stumbling towards defeat. That's a party that's been strategically repositioned brick by brick, map line by map line, endorsement by endorsement for exactly this moment. The Democrats' dumpster fire is burning. They are in total disarray. Maybe we could talk about their autopsy report. I don't know if you saw that, but they can't even openly say why they lost in that landslide election back in 2024. They can't openly say it. They can't even agree where the dumpster is. The Republicans, by contrast, they're building a cathedral. And Donald Trump is the architect. It is making America great again in ways we never even imagined. Over to you guys. Over to you. I want to hear what you have to say. Remember, our super chats are live. So our moderator, Josh, is putting together your questions. If you have any questions, go ahead and shoot them over to us. It'll be my honor, my privilege to answer them during this live stream. Also, did you know that U.S. life expectancy actually peaked at 78 years back in 2014? And global life expectancy is declining for the first time in 30 years because people are aging faster than ever before. And this is largely due to more toxins in the air and chemicals in our soil and our food and other external factors that are new to us. Now, what most people don't know is that we can actually fight aging on a cellular level. Scientists have discovered that kimchi
you have a lot of shit on us.
I just want to know, Hillary, when they finally arrest me with all the pedophile shit I do, how does a brother survive jail without being Epsteined?
Well, since you have a lot of shit on us, we're probably going to get you Epsteined as soon as you go to sleep. But hey, at least you won't have to shower, am I right? So anyway, enjoy your last meal, Puffy.
I just want to know, Hillary.
You know it's fake, y'all. It's fake, but yeah.
The aging process of human cells, helping to protect them and delay aging. The power of nature can outweigh the power of pharmaceuticals without the nasty side effects. And now you get all the benefits of kimchi in a simple capsule with Kimchi One. I take Kimchi One every single day. I absolutely love it. Each capsule delivers over 900 probiotic strains plus antioxidants and enzymes that support your digestion, your metabolism, your skin.
A Minnesota judge has just sentenced the mastermind behind the Feeding Our Future fraud scheme, Amy Bach. She just got more than 41 years in prison. The prosecution is asking for a 50-year sentence and her defense about 3 years. So that's somewhere in the middle that they got that, but closer to what obviously the prosecution wanted. The scheme involved the theft of nearly $250 million in COVID funding. That money was meant to feed hungry children. State leaders claim they were unaware of the fraud. Here's what Amy Bach told our Alexis McAdams from jail back in January.
I honestly believe Keith Ellison and Governor Walz need to be held accountable. There needs to be an investigation done. If they weren't aware, that's concerning.
In other words, how could they not have been aware? How could Ilhan Omar, whose entire district was involved with this, not be aware? She's the one that introduced the whole, I'm going to call it a scam, because that's what it was, all right? Maybe she didn't know it was going to be a scam, but that's us being generous, right? Innocent until proven guilty. We need to figure out exactly what she knew, exactly what Timmy Walz knew, exactly what Keith Ellison knew. And I think that that woman's going to be very incentivized to talk, shall we say. 41 and a half years in jail. Or maybe you actually spill the beans on what was really going down. Maybe she will spill the beans on what really happened in order to get some kind of reduction in that sentence at some point. I'm sure she's going to be trying to appeal. And so this is going to make Ilhan Omar very, very nervous. Ilhan is freaked out.
Did you ask Minnesota Democrats to block the subpoena for the investigation of Feeding Our Future on the state level? The House Republicans are considering investigating Feeding Our Future now. Your role in it, would you cooperate with that subpoena and provide documents if they request it here in the House Oversight Committee?
Nothing. Wow.
It's like she's just like glass. It reminds me of that time. Remember when Karen Bass came back from Africa where she was celebrating New Year's, even though she knew that there were going to be all those fires hitting LA around that time, and she went to Africa anyway. And some reporter got to her and she just looked straight through him like he didn't even exist. That's Ilhan Omar right about now because she's got a bit of a problem. You see, she introduced the scheme, which is believed to have, well, it's proven to have morphed into a massive fraudulent endeavor. The guy who hosted her campaign rally, the night she won the event at the Somali restaurant, he was one of the ringleaders. Oh, and another guy who actually worked for her and her husband, who ran that campaign, for a pretty sum of $2.8 million. Unheard of. Nobody makes that kind of money running a little congressional campaign in Minneapolis. No one, okay? I've told you this before. It was a big deal when Biden got, it was revealed by the New York Times that his guy was getting $4 million if he could get Biden to win. I'd say he deserved 40 if he could have gotten Biden to win. But anyway, nobody gets paid that kind of money. And yet, Ilhan's hubby did. And then his guy that worked for him on the campaign winds up being one of the ones that had to plead guilty to all this? I mean, this is some bad stuff, okay? This is really and truly some bad stuff. And then you factor in the reality that her money, you know, she went from being worth negative $60,000 or something to all of a sudden being worth $30 million. Whoa, okay? And then, after people kept asking questions and asking questions and asking questions for like a year, she's like, oh, no. It's only 97K. Okay, so something weird is going on, all right? And again, I hate to be a bearer of such obvious news, but if it walks like a duck and it talks like a duck, it's probably a duck. And you know what this looks like to me? Fraud. It just does. I'm not accusing the lady of anything. I know that might not be a nice thing to do. I'd love her to prove her innocence, but by the way, she's not helping herself. They keep asking for all this documentation. Come on, Ilhan, turn it over. Can we see the tax documents? Nope. Tell it to the hand. She says she doesn't do a darn thing. She just ignores all the requests from Comer's team. It's now been kicked back to the House Oversight Committee from the House Ethics Committee, and this means they can let it roll. He's now going and getting subpoenas for Ilhan Omar, so she will turn over this information. Meanwhile, I can tell you the Treasury Department, they're not going to tell you. The IRS, actually, it's kind of illegal for them to tell you if they're actually working on an investigation. But I'm just going to be, pointing out the obvious right here. They're working on an investigation, okay? Of course they're working on an investigation. And what they're also working on is trying to pinpoint this sort of tree, this web of financial fraudsters and figuring out who knew who and who was moving what money into whose bank account. So that's all going on behind the scenes. So Ilhan Omar should be darn scared right about now. And if they don't get her with this one, are they going to get her with this one? I mean, the autism fraud was just renounced as well. We learned that there's all kinds of autism fraud to the tune of $90 million going on in the state of Minnesota. Oh, again, Minnesota.
Today, we are announcing criminal charges against 15 defendants in Minnesota for fraud schemes that targeted over $90 million in taxpayer dollars. Let me be clear up front about something. This is not the end of our work in Minnesota.
Christopher Nolan got woke, man, with this Odyssey trash. Yeah, he's over with, man. I'm not watching none of his movies. He did great with Dark Knight. But after that, all that, he just went downhill.
It's not the end of the beginning of our work in Minnesota. This is the beginning of our work in Minnesota. The fraud here in Minnesota is shocking. Our cases today involve 7 different state-managed Medicaid programs that have been systematically pilfered by fraudsters who treated Minnesota-run programs as their personal piggy bank. One of the programs has been completely shut down because there's no money left. It's all gone. That was Minnesota's state-run Housing Stabilization Services Program.
I mean, it's so gross, right? This is going to be such a legacy for Trump. I mean, cleaning this all up, we can get this in better shape. I mean, wow, right? I mean, all the left wants to do is tax everybody more. What? So they can put it into these phony programs so that they can siphon more money out of them? I mean, this is disgusting. The pirates at work again, for goodness sakes. And when you think about the kids that got involved in this, families putting their kids in the center of this with this autism fraud. I mean, unbelievable stuff. This is the DOJ announcing all of this today. You were listening to the DOJ attorney right there. I want to go to Dr. Oz from the same press conference earlier.
Today's arrests represent the largest autism fraud bust in American history.
Forgive me, RFK Jr. Here we go. Largest autism fraud case bust in history in America.
This was not a paperwork error. It was not a technical violation. This was organized threat, organized theft that exploited the most vulnerable children in America. Deceived families, stole taxpayer dollars meant to help children with autism access legitimate care and support. Investigators uncovered brazen schemes that billed taxpayers for non-existent services, fraudulent diagnoses, and fake care while criminals enrich themselves at public expense. Every fraudulent autism diagnosis steals time, care, and resources from the children for whom this program was denied and who desperately need this care. Families with autistic children already face enormous challenges navigating therapies, specialists, and support systems. Fraud makes those barriers even steeper. America is facing a real autism crisis. Today, approximately 1 in every 31 children is diagnosed with autism spectrum disorder. Medicaid finances a significant share of autism-related services nationwide, and spending has risen dramatically over the last decade, and a lot of that spending is because of fraud. When criminals exploit these programs, taxpayers lose billions, and vulnerable children lose their access to care. Healthcare fraud now costs the United States tens of billions of dollars every year. Some estimates place the broader cost of healthcare fraud and improper payments at $100 billion annually.
Wow, right? I mean, it's really disgusting when you think about the way this went down. Just if you're not that familiar with it, per multiple reports, this autism fraud scheme worked such that you would have basically parents in the Minneapolis and Minnesota area, primarily
It says, yes, he got canceled.
In the Somali community, and they would actually sign something. They would get money for saying that their kid had autism, even though their kid did not. And so they were running these giant scams, costing you plenty, and really putting their children in a much more vulnerable spot. So it's just horrible, right? Like absolutely horrible to hear all this.
So his last show was yesterday.
The Leering Center.
So he was canceled last year, but ended up being his last day yesterday. That's what they were saying.
Charged with daycare fraud. I mean,
good. Get him out of here.
Keep on coming, right? Over and over and over again, and we're all learning about this community.
No problem.
This particular region in Minnesota.
Name's Deunta. Thanks for stopping by. Appreciate that.
Represented by one Ilhan Omar. And so I think everything keeps going back to her. And as we consider how much money she allegedly was taking in for her husband's business, to which he was valuing that winery at $5 million, and he was valuing his venture capital firm, which really seemed like some kind of access lobbying firm, operating all around the world. Oh, amazing how that happens, you know? I've told you, you know how it must have gone down. I mean, if it went down this way, if it was a money laundering shop, basically he'd take some of that cash in. You know, you send some of that feed in our future over here, we'll feed our future, all right. How might this have worked? Think about it. Okay, he's got a venture capital firm. He wants
Good
to buy
morning,
shares in the
Dirty
firm.
Money. Good
Well,
morning.
he's going to justify the valuation, so he's going to have the sky-high valuation. He brings it in. Maybe he does some deal. He overseas. Why not overseas? You can get some of that USAID money as well. Over there in South Africa, we're going to put in some kind of solar panels in some kind of place in South Africa. We're going to spiff it up, launder it up, and then we're going to send that money back
Subscribe if you haven't already. Subscribe.
And then it's worth more. I mean, that's one way. One possibility. There's many different ways to skin a cat, and I have no doubt that she may have been looking at those multiple ways, or if not her, he. I don't know if she was that smart. You know, when they say, and she's like, well, I didn't understand. I didn't know, you know, it was my accountant's problem. I mean, that's one dumb accountant, I got to say. But how could you and your husband not know? I mean, shame on you, lady. Like, how could you not know, like, what is in your bank account, what your net worth is? Give me a break. I mean, she really must think we're dumb. Well, James Comer, a little bit earlier today, was appearing on Fox talking about all this. And of course, James Comer is trying to find a way to get her subpoenaed, right? He wants her subpoenaed because he wants to get to the bottom of all this and figure out what's what. Let's go to him.
You have not investigated anything. Here's her. Watch.
House Republicans looking into the net worth of you and your husband. Are you cooperating with that investigation and providing the documents?
I usually be at work on Fridays. I work Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, the weekend shift. So usually I don't be live on Fridays, but I'm off today. So here we are. Appreciate you guys.
They're just saying those things to get interviews with you guys. There's nothing really happening.
They're saying it's a red flag.
Investigated anything. He hasn't done anything. He hasn't referred me to anybody. He's just saying that so he can get TV interviews because you guys will only talk to them if they say something about me.
Says you haven't investigated anything, Chairman. It's basically all for attention.
Yeah, she's delusional and she knows better. She's trying to say she made a mistake on her financial disclosure form. No one makes a $30 million.
That's what's up. So yeah, so I got so I work Saturday and Sunday, so I still gotta go to work this weekend, but I get a 5-day work week off. 5-day work week off. Really cool.
Mistake on your financial disclosure form, especially if you don't have any assets. You know, if you're Donald Trump or some very wealthy person, 30 million might be a rounding error. But for someone who alleges now she has nothing, that's a pretty big rounding error. And it all stems around two basic things, a problem she has. First of all, she asked for an earmark for a project that was later proven to be a fraudulent project that was involved in that Somali scam up there. And then secondly, she claimed her assets were huge because of this winery that we know has been shut down that, according to rumors and press reports, was defrauding investors.
Yeah, Congressman, thank you for your time. We appreciate it.
Unfortunately, and this is my,
as you will.
Yeah, this is one of my problems, if you would, with reporters. Question he was asking him, which I too am frustrated with.
This is my channel. Check it out.
Check it out. Not getting the answers yet, and if Ilhan is saying, "Well, no, they're not asking for them," and he's like, "We have been asking for them," then I don't know what's going on. I will say this: I myself have read the letters that Comer has been sending her, so I can assure you, and I've showed you some of those letters. He has on multiple occasions made it very public that he was trying to get this information. I can tell you that in the state investigation in Minnesota, the Democrats actually shut that down, and the headline came and went, and that they don't want that happening with Ilhan Omar, so she's not turning over any information there to state investigators as well. So one of the questions, you heard the reporter, he's like, hey, she said, you're not actually pursuing this, are you? To which he said she's delusional, and then he went into the whole, she thinks she's worth 30 million and then she's worth 97,000. So here's what I would like to see. I think we got to step it up from Congress, guys. Okay, like I love James Comer, but come on, they're always an investigation. They never go and get anything done. I'm sorry, but it's true. Okay, so
all right, you guys, I'm finna get off. Go ahead and go enjoy the wife, get something to eat, get this food ready for the barbecue for this weekend. And I really appreciate you guys. Like, share, and subscribe. Check out my other videos I got. Let me know what you thought. Let me know what you guys think about it. Catch you next time.